It's great that A Prairie Home Companion has made a place for poetry, especially my poetry. So I'm going to read a few poems. Some of you know my poetry, know that I'm a dog person, basically, and I've written extensively on the subject, but a cat has gotten into our house and shows no signs of leaving. She came from Catland, or I don't know where, but she has also made her way into a few poems. So here is one about that, and it's called Lucky Cat. It's a law as immutable as the ones governing bodies in motion and bodies at rest, that a cat picked up will never stay in the place where you choose to set it down. I bet you'd be happy on the sofa or on this hassock or this knitted throw pillow are a few examples of bets you are bound to lose. The secret of winning, I have found, is never to bet against the cat, but on the cat, preferably with another human being who, unlike the cat, is likely to be carrying money. And I cannot think of a better time to thank our cat for her obedience to that law, thus turning me into a consistent winner. She's a pure black one, quite impossible to photograph, and prone to disappearing into the night or even to the thin shadows of noon. Such an amorphous blob of blackness is she. The only way to tell she is approaching is to notice the two little yellow circles of her eyes, then only one circle when she is walking away, with her tail raised high, something like the lantern signals of Paul Revere, American silversmith, galloping patriot. So that's her. So that's her. Audrey is her name. And in case you want to call her up sometime. And this poem is simply titled 1960. In the old joke, the marriage counselor tells the couple who never talks anymore to go to a jazz club, because at a jazz club, everyone talks during the bass solo. But of course, no one starts talking just because of a bass solo, or any other solo for that matter. The quieter bass solo just reveals the people in the club who have been talking all along. The same ones you can hear on some well-known recordings. Bill Evans, for example, who is opening a new door on the piano while some guy chats up his date at one of the little tables in the back. I have listened to that album so many times, I can anticipate the moment of his drunken laugh, as if it were a strange note in the tune. And so, anonymous man, you have become part of my listening, your romance, a romance lost in the past, and a reminder somehow that each member of that trio has died since then, and maybe so have you, and sadly, maybe she. It's funny and sad at the same time. That's what we're aiming for here. Here's something that poets get all the time. Other writers never get this, but poets are subject to this stuff, and you'll quickly see, even from the title, you might know what it is. It's called The Suggestion Box. It all began fairly early in the day, at the coffee shop, as it turned out, when the usual waitress said, "I'll bet you're going to write a poem about this," after she had knocked a cup of coffee into my lap. Then, later in the morning, I was told by a student that I should write a poem about the fire drill that was going on as we all stood on the lawn outside our building. In the afternoon, a woman I barely knew said, "You could write a poem about that," pointing to a dirigible that was passing overhead. And if all that were not enough, a friend turned to me as we walked past a man whose face was covered with tattoos and said, "I see a poem coming." Why is everyone being so helpful? I wondered that evening by the shore of a lake. Maybe I should write a poem about all the people who think they know what I should be writing poems about. It was just then, in the fading light, that I spotted a pair of ducks emerging from a cluster of reeds to paddle out to open water, the female glancing back over her russet shoulder, just in time to see me searching my pockets for a pen. I knew it, she quacked with a bit of a brogue. But who can blame you for following your heart, she went on. Now go write a lovely poem about me and the mister. Thank you. That's what we do, come up with talking ducks, right? Here's a poem, last poem in this sequence that is tackles or faces a rather big, thorny subject, and that is the subject of adolescence. And it's dedicated to someone who is committing that crime of being one at some point. And it's called To My Favorite 17-Year-Old High School Girl. Do you realize that if you had started building the Parthenon on the day you were born, you would be all done in only one more year? Of course, you couldn't have done that alone, so never mind. You're fine just as you are. You are loved for simply being yourself. But did you know that at your age, Judy Garland was pulling down $150,000 a picture? Joan of Arc was leading the French army to victory, and Blaise Pascal had cleaned up his room? No, wait, I mean he had invented the calculator. Of course, there will be time for all that later in your life, after you come out of your room and begin to blossom, or at least pick up all your socks. For some reason, I keep remembering that Lady Jane Grey was Queen of England when she was only 15, but then she was beheaded, so never mind her as a role model. But a few centuries later, when he was your age, Franz Schubert was doing the dishes for his family, but that did not keep him from composing 2 symphonies, 4 operas, and 2 complete masses as a youngster. But of course, that was in Austria at the height of romantic lyricism, not here in the suburbs of Cleveland. Frankly, who cares if Annie Oakley was a crack shot at 15? Or if Maria Callas debuted as Tosca at 17. We think you are special by just being you. Playing with your food and staring into space. By the way, I lied about Schubert doing the dishes, but that doesn't mean he never helped out around the house.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Billy Collins.